Good evening and welcome to this evening's inaugural Great Neck Coalition for Unity Community Forum. My name is Dan Holtzman. I'm a member of the coalition and serve as the Assistant Superintendent for Secondary Education in the Great Neck Public Schools. Please rise as veteran Peter Gong recites the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Now may we have one moment of silence. Monday was Memorial Day. All the veterans that served the country and didn't come home. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Gong, and thank you for your service. Tonight's event is a culmination of the hard work and dedication of many people and organizations that I'm honored to have the privilege of working alongside. I'd like to take this opportunity to recognize them for their efforts. Honorable Mazi Phillip, Legislator, Nassau County Legislature. Honorable Christine Liu, Councilwoman, Town of North Hempstead. Honorable Rory Lanceman on behalf of the Great Neck Library. Judge Mojian Kohanim Lanceman on behalf of SHI, who also serves as president. President Kiana Hobdi on behalf of North Shore NAACP. President Patricia Snyder on behalf of the Great Neck Chamber of Commerce. President Stephen Chen on behalf of the Great Neck Chinese Association and the Great Neck Public Schools. Superintendent Dr. Kenneth Bossert on behalf of the Great Neck Public Schools. Rebecca Sassouni on behalf of the Great Neck Public Schools and SHI. Director Maria Quadra on behalf of COPE. Director Denise Cochran on behalf of the Great Neck Library. Rabbi Brian Stoller on behalf of Temple Beth El of Great Neck. Mayor Stephen Weinberg on behalf of the Village of Thomaston and the Great Neck Village Officials Association. Mayor Ted Rosen on behalf of the Village of Great Neck Plaza. And we'd also like to send a welcome to Supervisor DeSena. Thank you all for being here and working with us. The genesis of tonight's event came as a collective wisdom of the committee to create opportunities for us to come together, to learn, understand, and connect with our neighbors. One of our many points of pride in the Great Neck community is the celebration and love of our diverse community. In this spirit, we have gathered together to do just that. As a coalition, we created a mission statement to guide our work. Ms. Rebecca Sassouni will share that mission statement with us.
Thank you, Dr. Holtzman. I appreciate the brief opportunity to join in taking a moment to recognize the spirit of welcome and invitation that brings us all here together this evening. Huan Ying Guan Lin, Chosh Amadin, Bruchim Habayim, Bienvenue, Salut. And I would like to thank and acknowledge Mayor Ted Rosen, my friend, whose vision and whose inclusive and welcoming spirit is what actually started this coalition. And also to acknowledge the efforts of Denise Corcoran, the executive director of the library, and her staff, who went to great lengths to make tonight's welcoming downstairs possible. The following statement was wordsmithed for the coalition by Thomaston Mayor Steve Weinberg and Library Secretary Rory Lanceman on behalf of the Coalition for Unity, a body which has been convening periodically at Mayor Rosen's invitation for nearly 2 years. The Coalition for Unity celebrates the universality of diversity and promotes understanding, supports inclusion, acceptance, and collaboration, fostered through community activities, food, music, and storytelling, to enhance our lives and to unify Great Neck's present and future residents. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Sassouni. There are several others that we need to thank. One, for their generous donations. Great Neck Village Officials Association and the Village of Great Neck Plaza. Thank you so much for your generous donations. The following restaurants and establishments have provided food for the program, and we thank and recognize them for their support. Bravo Pizza, Dangham Grill Sushi Bar, Elite Pizza, the Inn of Great Neck, La Pizzeria, Paprika, Tous Le Jour, Yahoo, Varley Kitchen, Paris Baguette, and Chattanooga. At this time, I would like to welcome our panelists and moderators for this evening's event. Each will introduce themselves, and we will start with Rabbi Schweber.
Thank you very much for having me here. I'm Rabbi Daniel Schweber, just up the block from Rabbi Stoller at Temple Great Neck of Israel Great Neck of Temple Israel Great Neck. And my daughters are seniors in North High School, going to UMass Amherst next year, and we're very grateful to the public schools.
I'm Steve Chen. I am honored to be able to participate in this great event, and I want to thank the two mayors, Mayor Weinberg and Mayor Rosen, taking the lead on this amazing effort. I am currently serving as the president of the Great Neck Chinese Association, and I'm fortunate to be on the school board as well. So thank you to all the panelists tonight, and thank you for sharing your time and your experience.
And we'll start with Stephanie, if you'd like to introduce yourself, and then go down the line.
Hi, my name is Stephanie Liu. I've been to Great Neck, moved to Great Neck for more than 25 years. And I have so much to say how much I love the education system in Great Neck, and definitely the safety also, the neighborhood, absolutely the best. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Regina Gill, and we moved here in 1976, and I believe that we moved here also for the schools, and we were not disappointed. So just so you know. And along the way, I founded the Gold Coast, then the Great Neck Art Center, today the Gold Coast Art Center, and then the Gold Coast International Film Festival. And discovered that this was a community that historically and currently supports culture, education, and the arts.
Good evening, I am Annaleka Ganguly. My parents moved to Great Neck in 1980 after looking at the Money Magazine ranking of public schools. So that kind of tells you why they moved here. I moved back to Great Neck, and my children have graduated out of Great Neck North and have graduated out of college. So yes, I have a whole lifespan of experiences from Great Neck that I am happy to share with all of you.
My name is Adam Code. I actually also grew up in Great Neck in 1982 when we moved to Great Neck. Grew up here, spent some time not here, going to law school and spending a few of my single years in the city. But then as soon as my favorite daughter, who's here today, was born and we needed to move out to the suburbs, we came right back because we loved it here. And I had a great childhood, and I had a great and a really tight-knit, great community. And I wanted to be a part of that, just like I had when I grew up. So it's really an honor to be here. It's a great idea to have a panel like this and to have discussions like this, and I'm really happy to be a part of it.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me here. I want to say that I am neighbors to Mayor Steve Weinberg, who invited me to this. And unlike many of you, I'm actually relatively new to Great Neck. We came by way of, Queens. And like also many of you, I came here, I would like to say, because of the academic rigorous schools that are here, but it was more along the lines of my wife saying, hey, we need to get our kids to a better school, so let's move to Great Neck. So we ended up here, and lo and behold, I have a daughter now that is a freshman at Great Neck South, and I have a daughter here in the audience who graduated from Great Neck South and is at Binghamton right now. And it's such a wonderful community. In our 2.5 years here, it's been such an inviting, embracing community. It's like no other place I've ever lived, and I've lived all over the world in the sense. I'm a military brat, so I must say that this is a very unique place. So thank you for having me here.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Nazanin Amirian. I'm a Persian Jew from Iran. I left Iran as a teenager, and moved to Los Angeles. Got my bachelor degree and met my husband, got married, and moved to New York, moved to Great Neck. So my reason for moving to New York is different from everyone else. I married in Great Neck. And we raised 3 children. I had the opportunity to serve Long Island Hebrew Academy, which is the Jewish day school, as a PTA president. So I have experience both in public school and Jewish day school as a mother. And right now I've been a resident of Great Neck for 37 years, and I'm thankful to the panelists, and thank you for having me here.
Thank you all for being here and being a part of these conversations. We really do appreciate it. And if there's anybody that's here after this evening that is interested in joining the coalition, we are always looking for participants and conversation with others. So to give that some consideration. So with that, let's begin, and we will allow Mr. Chen to start us off.
So I will read the first question, and then I will ask individual panelists to talk about their experience. So the first question is, as a resident of Great Neck, what aspects of your heritage, be it cultural, religious, or historical, resonate most deeply with you, and how do you express or connect with them in your daily life? Let's start with Regina. We made eye contact, so.
You thought we were going to go in order.
I was trying not to look.
So we're talking about what aspects of Great Neck resonate with me culturally, educationally, historically,
Right.
that are informed by my background. Got it. How long have I got?
Easy question.
And you have 2 minutes.
2 minutes wouldn't even begin to describe my journey to get here.
They're gonna stop the music soon.
Get the hook ready. The reason that I find Great Neck so interesting, and I was discussing that just earlier, is that I was not born here. In fact, we came to this country when I was 2 years old from Germany, and I was a refugee. I was not an immigrant. My parents were not immigrants. My parents were refugees after World War II. So we ended up in New Orleans, and then San Antonio, Texas, and then St. Louis, and then Manhattan, and then the Bronx. So my memories of going through moving all the time are kind of similar to other people who've come here as immigrants or refugees, and in that you learn quickly how to fit in. It never occurred to me that you could fit in just because you were born here, that you automatically have a social circle or a family circle or so on. So what I've always been interested in about Great Neck is that there were so many people here who were living in homes that their parents had raised them in. That this was a community with a heritage, and that it had survived many changes, that it had gone pre-World War II. I don't believe there were a lot of Jewish residents here, and post-World War II, suddenly there were, and suddenly you had young families replacing the original families in our community, and it felt like I was on a college campus, and this was a rush. So what I'm trying to tell you is that the history of Great Neck and what it's derived from, and where it's leading us is a pretty solid base if we only pay attention to it, because the people who are drawn to this community, as I can hear, are drawn to this community for reasons that I respect, even though we may have absolutely nothing in common as far as background or history or journey.
Thank you. Adam?
He's the one I spoke to.
That's what I get for being a wise guy. So I have obviously a very different background than that. When I grew up here, it was, from my perspective, it was kind of very insular. We went to Orthodox schools and Orthodox Jewish schools, and I had a very tight-knit and very big community just all around me. And that's still important. Like, that's still important. We still have a very, I always say that, Orthodox Jews, often live within walking distance of a synagogue. And so we're all like really close to each other. We're all going to each other's houses for lunch on Shabbat. And we have a great social network and a great group of friends. One of the things that I've found now with having kids is, and especially the more that I participate and partake of various community services that we have here. The big one is the Parks Department. So like I found, so to answer the question, before I get to that, to answer the question, there's obviously a lot of religious connection here, and there's a lot of community connection because of our religion. But one of the things that I love and I found is that that my son this year started playing hockey on the hockey team with the Bruins, and suddenly we have a team where with people from all different backgrounds, and we have very different backgrounds, and it's amazing how in the end none of that really matters, right? You have fun with everyone, you're friends with everyone, and I really enjoy getting to learn other cultures. I think sometimes there's a bit of a little bit of a fear sometimes about talking about other people's cultures, and there's a fear you might say the wrong thing. I don't really have that fear because I know that if it's good natured, but I like learning about other people's cultures and having those conversations and not be afraid to accidentally say the wrong thing. And there was a lot of that this year, and the more you interact with each other, you also see how much you break down barriers. There's a whole set, there's a whole, humans are just sort of tribal by nature, and we see us and them. But one of the things you realize is that the more you interact with people who are not like you, everyone's really just pretty much the same. And that's been, I'm not saying I learned that lesson this year, but it certainly has been a very, it's one of the things I love about Great Neck is that I kind of have both, right? I have like that insular Orthodox Jewish community. I've got the friends that I see every week in shul, and we get very tight-knit and close because of that. But at the same time, we also have so many other great things and such a great, so many other cultures and so many people you get to meet around here and realize that, we could do basically a lot of other people I'm glad I got to meet, getting to meet that I wouldn't otherwise meet, just in shul, let's say.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm a more Rangers fan, but I'll support the Great Neck. Analeka?
So I was not born in America either. We immigrated to the United States in 1974, and we landed up in Queens, and then from Queens we moved to Great Neck. But I came from India, from Calcutta, which is not your typical Delhi, or Bombay, and the reason why that matters is because of language, traditions, and all this other stuff we can get into later. But the reason why my father did move to Great Neck, and the reason why I moved back to Great Neck after moving away, after getting married, is the things within my heritage that resonate within the Great Neck community is a fierce kind of dedication to knowledge and to interacting with people we don't know, and to opening up to other kinds of experiences. And so there wasn't a large Indian community at all when my father moved here in 1980. So we had to find the commonalities between our neighbors so that we could become a Great Neck person, right? So what were the things that we were finding in common? Everybody was involved with the schools. Everybody was involved in the parks. Everybody loved the parks. We had, we took pride in our neighborhoods, and we took pride in our after school teams and things like that. And that was something that was still here when I moved back with my kids. So these are the things I think that are foundational in Great Neck and which make up really the characteristic of this town, which draws so many people year after year who are, from all over the United States, but more so from the immigrants that do come into New York. There is a steady stream of immigrants. That is the history of Great Neck. And so, that lends itself to people always trying to learn from each other. That's what I
Thank you. Steve?
Yeah, so I don't know if I can actually target as well as the other panelists have about how I can really connect with this community, being that I've been here 2.5 years. It's more of an observation, I would say. Again, so I'm Filipino, and I'm a second generation American. My father's Filipino, my mother's Filipino. And so through them, they of course, wanted the American dream for us as their children. My father was in the military, as I mentioned. He actually flew on Air Force One and has been traveled around the world. So I'm quite proud of that. My mother was a nurse for the VA for many, many years before she retired. And so when we moved to this community, when I moved to New York, I just saw that it was such a diverse place, right? We talk about it being a melting pot or a salad, however you want to view it. And in a way, I saw Great Neck as not quite as diverse as I thought New York was. And I don't know if that offends people or not, but I see conclaves or enclaves of people in this community. And it's not a bad thing, right? Like even just the different temples. When I go down the street, I say, well, there's a temple there, there's a temple there. And I hear people on the train talking about, oh, so-and-so, did you go to the temple yesterday? Oh, who had, she was hosting on Friday and all this. And it's so interesting to me. And I can just, it makes me smile. It's like, these people just love each other, and it seems like they've grown up together. And I've never experienced that because as a military brat, I was constantly moving, right? So I kind of, I'm a psychotherapist by trade. My wife is a psychiatrist, so I observe, I listen, I watch, and I enjoy, right? I enjoy learning about people and their stories. And so when I see people sharing these stories, it warms my heart. And I'm truly ignorant, though, of so many things that take place in this community because even though I've traveled around, the majority of my life was spent in the Midwest, in Missouri, and it's kind of
Different?
It's different. It's very insulated and very conservative. And here, New York typically is a blue state, and it was like, wow, this is just a different way of thinking. And so moving to Great Neck, I was just like amazed at all the different ideas, how there was such a strong work ethic, and there's so many people who come from, like Annalika, their families come here, and they really live and create the American dream. And my parents, they wanted that for us, and so for my wife and I, for my children that are now here, I feel like, in a way, we're kind of like, I guess I want to say, pioneers. For my wife is Pakistani, I'm Filipino, which makes my children an interesting mix. And I'm also Muslim. And I don't see too many. I haven't seen yet a masjid in the neighborhood. So maybe one day, I feel like this is a great place to raise a family. Maybe one day, something like that, we'll see more of our people in this community as well. Because I see it as a very welcoming community.
Thank you. I just want to show the panelists, you will not be judged and evaluated. So please share your experience. Nazanin?
Yes. So I agree so much with Adam regarding the Jewish heritage. The Jewish heritage for us is what keeps our community together. We have a very deep and enduring Jewish faith that our religious practices, as you said, that there are so many different ways of keeping Judaism. There are 19 synagogues and more popping up for Persian Jews only.
28.
Wow.
28.
28. Yeah, 28. So being Jewish really has been the pillar of our faith. And this is what keeps us grounded. We share our values, rituals, sense of collective responsibility, our Shabbat dinners, our Jewish holidays. Another equally important thing for us is our Persian heritage. Persian heritage, there is a very culture, it's a culture that is very vibrant, poetic. It has beautiful language, music, mysticism, cuisine that you got to experience a little bit. I think downstairs, I don't know if there were any Persian cuisine, but hopefully
there was.
if you've been to Persian families, you see what I'm talking about. Persian culture is something that we carry with pride and joy in our daily lives. The same values that we are raised with, we are trying to pass this on to our children as well. We raise our children to be good Persian Jews. Kids who strongly can connect both identities, they can speak the language so they can communicate with the grandparents and also keep their Jewish faith. We encourage them to stay within the culture, to stay within the faith, to be able to read and pray in Hebrew, as well as attend public school, or if their family chooses or if they choose, they attend Jewish day school. So these are the values that we've been growing up with, and these are what we are passing on to our kids. And I'm really grateful that Great Neck has provided us this opportunity to have this freedom to choose how we want to direct our lives, how we want, what synagogue that we want to choose, how we want to conduct our lives. If people are more moderate, they can live like that if they can be. If they want to be more modest in their practices, so be it, they can live freely. It's a beautiful community that has embraced diversity. And this is what really I, as a Persian Jew, am very grateful for.
Thank you. Stephanie?
I guess I'm the last one. I shared this. I realized we are really not answering the questions. I came to United States when I was 11 years old. We first came, I live in Brooklyn. Scary, huh? Okay. Shifshet Bay. No more Shifshet Bay High School. One of the most dangerous schools in New York. Shifshet Bay High School. Yes. It's done. Okay. I met my husband. He grew up in Great Neck. So we moved to Great Neck. Then I moved to Queens. Then I had my son and moved back to Great Neck. Bought a house next to my in-law. So, but I came back for the education. Because my husband said, we gotta make sure we raise a kid in Great Neck. But not Great Neck North. And I go, why? I'm like, when we moved in, we were the very few Chinese family. He came here more than 30 years ago. So I would say very few Asian family, okay? But, you know, there's no difference. We were connected when my kids were younger through sports. The music school, very welcoming. My son took kinder music at 3 years old. I connected with every parent with this music, education. People have said, you connect with everybody from different backgrounds through food, music, sports, and education, right? But I realized I had to be very honest. Everybody who lives in Great Neck are well off. One common thing is that I believe that connect all of us together is core value. Okay? We all have money, but we still work very hard. Okay? We are all here today after a long day of work, right? So that is really connecting us truthfully, I think. I mean, I'm doing good? Okay, I don't know, I'm so nervous. So, I don't know, it's a little different from everybody else.
Thank you, Stephanie.
Different perspective. Thank you.
Rabbi Schreiber?
So I think I'm going to skip to question 3. The rabbinic privilege here, because 1 and 2 kind of are very similar.
Right.
So we're going to go a little bit perhaps negative for a second, and then we can challenge them. What are some common stereotypes or misconceptions you wish more people in Great Neck understood or challenged? I'll take a volunteer to be the first speaker.
I'll volunteer.
Please.
This is the fun one.
Okay.
We get to get real. I think there's a big, and not just talking about like, stereotypes about, what I'm actually really more focused on for an event like this, more focused on what are some of the ways that we think about each other and what do we think about another person thinks about something. Like, what do people think, Orthodox Jews think about this or that? I think there's a misconception out there that leads to a lot of division. I think and we talked a lot about the school so far tonight. I think there's a misconception out there that Orthodox Jews who don't send their kids to the public schools here are somehow not supportive of the public schools. That's a really big misconception, and I think there's like this thinking of sometimes there's competing needs for dollars. There's competing needs for the transportation and the textbooks and the special ed and the and the various things. Obviously the budgets are limited, and I think there's a thought, and obviously it all comes together with taxes also. And I think there's a misconception out there that Orthodox Jews who don't send their kids to the public schools are not supportive of the public schools. I think that leads to a lot of unnecessary division. I think it leads to a lot of people looking at other folks like a little standoffish or skeptical or cynical of their motives. That's one of the things that's one of the stereotypes that I think should be challenged.
Thank you.
Next volunteer.
Sorry?
The next volunteer. Anyone else want to tackle this?
I'll go.
Please.
I'll go.
Please.
So there are some stereotypes about Persian Jews that even in high school or in schools, that Persian Jews are only about designers and labels.
Designers and labels.
Designers and labels. That I would say that we take pride in our appearance and have strong sense of style. But what people do not realize is that we are incredibly smart shoppers. We shop around, we compare, we know value, and we're always hunting for a deal. And maybe that's why the Great Neck local shops are not doing so well. Because we hold our spending to very high standards. Another one stereotype would be that Persians are demanding. And I think when it comes to food, because Persians are really great cooks. Mostly all women can testify to that. And we grew up with such high quality home cooked meals. We have high expectations from the restaurants, supermarkets, and caterers. But far from the being negative, the demanding taste has, I think, elevated the local kosher supermarket and restaurant scene in Great Neck. So I think for that reason, this has worked for the benefit of elevating the food scene in Great Neck. Whereas I've heard that some people who are traveling to Hamptons, they stop by in Great Neck, they buy whatever groceries to stock up their refrigerator to take their fare because they can't find such good quality kosher food. Another thing that Adam also hit on was that Persian Jews, I mean, talking about Jews in general, but Persian Jews are insular. It's true because we're a tight-knit community. We lived in a Muslim country, we left a Muslim country, and in order for our kids not to assimilate, we had to stay insular. We had to be very tight-knit. I think another misconception would be that since October 7, many people in the community have become more spiritually observant, even by wearing kippah or ladies wearing modest attire. But I think it's a great opportunity because we see more and more people are seeking connection, they're becoming spiritual, they are finding meaning and healing through this tradition. So I think it's something that we can celebrate instead of fearing or putting it in a negative connotation.
Thank you very much. Yes, please.
I'm just going to speak on behalf of most Asians. We are not all good at math. We're not good at math. We're not. Also, being Indian, we don't all eat spicy food. My son hates curry. These are just generalizations, right? That if you don't have a lot of people of your community who live in Great Neck, people walk around with. So I wish people would ask. Also, the other thing I think, I don't have a lot of the, let's just say, a community is not a monolith. They don't all think the same. They don't all behave the same. They don't all have the same beliefs. So what I will say about Great Neck is, there have been so many people who are shocked that I grew up here because I don't look like your typical Great Necker. And I think that's what needs to be challenged. Is there a typical Great Necker?
Sure. Used to be.
Used to be. Right? It could be me. And I think that's what we really have to think about. Like, my kids will say they're Great Neckers. And they look, more like their dad, one of them at least, but they look like me. And, my parents have been here for 50 years nearly. They're Great Neckers, right? But they've been asked, like, what do you mean you're from here? So we really have to take a step back and think about, like, what does, a person from Great Neck doesn't have to look a certain way, they just are a certain way. And I think we have to kind of decouple that.
Regina, you want to speak?
Regina.
Regina, do you want to speak? Yeah.
I actually have a lot to say on this subject because I have been in the trenches during the transitions since I founded the Art Center, and every time a new ethnic population moved in, I was told, oh, the Art Center is going to die because you're never going to get the Persians, the Indians, the Asians, brown people, black people, yellow people, doesn't matter, red people, European people, whatever the group that came, Orthodox people. I can tell you right now that if we did not have an Asian population of children and adults who come to the Art Center, we would not be teaching ballet. I can tell you right now. That's number one. Number two, I can tell you that we are affiliates of the Kennedy Center in Washington, which provides workshops. We were in partnership with the Great Neck Schools for a couple of years. And during that time, we were taught how to create workshops for teachers so that we could get in there and teach teachers how to deal with new populations, because there were many, I don't call them stereotypes, I call them misconceptions. So there was one workshop we did for the Chinese community when that one became, teachers were complaining that the the students didn't respond to them the same way, that the parents didn't come to talk to them, that whatever the problems were, they were clearly problems of unfamiliarity. So we created a workshop, and it was called Breaking Down the Great Wall of China. And it involved food, and it involved music. We had a woman in Great Neck, she was young then, who sang, I was too, so who sang,
That's what it is.
yeah, who sang opera from the Western canon, and she sang pre-Mao Chinese folk songs. So she was introducing the teachers, everything was transliterated, we assumed nobody could speak, just as an example. It was the most successful program for the teachers felt all their questions were now being answered, they were the nicest, and that's the hallmark. When we were doing a program, we did a similar program for the Persian community. Now, I am very familiar with the Persian community because I am married to a man from Israel whose family came from Central Asia, Bukhara. So that's the same food. Rice is rice. So and I know what it's like to be the outsider in that population because my mother-in-law taught me that. And so I knew something about it. So I turned to some of my friends. At that time, we had someone on the board of the Art Center who was Persian, from the Persian community. And we came up with a program of, again, food and music and dance, because in this instance it was dance. But the generosity of both populations that we created these workshops for teachers, both populations, the women, the food was fantastic. The teachers were unbelievable. This was at the south end of the community and at the north end of the community. All I can tell you is, no matter what we've had to do, and we've moved on, if you're called exclusive, and if you're called cliquish, and if you're called this, I haven't seen evidence of that in my art center, never. And certainly not among the kids. And sometimes the kids teach their parents. You don't have to be, they're really nice, and the teachers are so nice, and they're from here, and they're from there, and that's fine. And that's part of a community, is actually interacting. I founded this is the last thing I'm going to say about the Art Center today. I founded the Art Center in the belief that Great Neck did not have a central locus where people could sit together, people from Queens, people from North, so everything was divided between North and South. I said, what is this, the Civil War? So we ended up creating classes where kids become friends with kids they probably wouldn't meet until high school or after high school. I have found nothing but generosity and kindness, and if you invite people to be part of something, they show up. And that's been true for the Persian community, for the Indian community, for the Asian community, for the American community, whatever that means. And I have to actually dispute that. I think Great Neck is as some people have said, very welcoming. And as far as the Orthodox, and so when we first came to look for a house in Great Neck, and we moved in here in 1976, so that was when Jimmy Carter was coming in. And when we were looking for a house, the broker said, we said, how diverse is the community? And the broker said, oh, it's very diverse. The 3 major religions are here. Really? Which 3? Orthodox, conservative, and Reformed. that was what she said. So I said, okay. So I was coming out of Manhattan at that point, and I was like, really? That's funny. So I can tell you that this is a great community, and that people in their stereotypes, try to tell them not to use the word stereotypes, try misconceptions. To know them is to love them.
Thank you so much.
Rabbi, I think we're going to move on to another question. Okay, Mr. Chen?
Yes. I could attest to what Nazanin had said about kosher food. My kids come home, Dr. Holtzman, you might want to cover your ears for this. The school lunches, the pizza is not very good, except the kosher pizzas. So they asked me if we could buy kosher pizzas. I said, of course. So in the sake of saving some time, I'm going to skip down to question number 6. Within Great Neck, what do you see as some of the unique challenges and opportunities in your community today? So I'm going to start with the panelists that didn't get a chance to answer. So Steve? You're only been here 2.5 years, so
right.
Spotlight's on you.
Let's see here. Let me take a look. Some of the challenges. Again, this it kind of
goes along with what I've been hearing about, this community as a whole. When it comes to stereotypes, again, 2.5 years, I did hear about the stereotypes before we moved here, right? That it was predominantly a Jewish community, and that there was a lot of influx of Asians moving into that community because of the schools. And it's not a stereotype, I think that's just a fact, it is, and it's an established fact, and it's also a very affluent neighborhood. And with it, though, I think comes a challenge of diversity. I don't know about, how many other minorities are in this area. As a Filipino, I've yet to meet another Filipino. My wife is Pakistani. Again, we're Muslim, so we're still trying to find our way in this community. And, it's been a challenge, quite frankly. And I'll be honest, when my wife did all the research about Great Neck, she told me, oh, great schools, great community, yada, yada, and again, I was just going along for the ride. And, next thing you know, we're looking at a house that's right across the street from Mayor Steve Weinberg. And honestly, this also kind of answers one of the other questions. It was a bit of a profound moment because I had in my head all these stereotypes about Great Neck. Neither good nor bad, it was just a stereotype. And I met Steve Weinberg, our lovely mayor, and his wife Raquel. And I thought it was such an interesting thing here that, I always felt kind of like it never really belonged in a sense. Here I am, grew up Catholic, became Muslim. In fact, when we first were living in Queens, it's kind of funny for my daughters even, they were going to the Samuel Field Y for after school. They were going to St. Mary's for school. And then they would, on Saturdays, they would go to the mosque in East Meadows for their lessons, for their Quran lessons.
My sons went to Temple Bethel, 3s and 4s.
Okay, yeah. So it was quite an experience for us. And then going back to Steve here, it was, when we first walked in and started looking at this house, he and his wife came over, they told us a little about it, and they were so welcoming. And I came to learn that he was Jewish and she was Puerto Rican. And I was like, and I hope that's not confidential information.
Is it now?
And quite honestly, that just kind of made me feel like, okay, I think we're going to be all right.
Thank you. Stephanie?
What was the question?
Number 6. I'll read it again. Within Great Neck, what do you see as some of the unique challenges and opportunities in this community today?
I think instead of we're lacking a community center as a whole, just one indoor community center, so we could connect all the kids together through sports, music, even art, dances. We just need one, right? Instead of so many different ones. So sometimes I just feel like, oh, can I go there? If I'm not a member, if I don't practice the same, religions, that might be a challenging, because sometimes you just don't know if you're welcoming or not. But of course there is, but then there's some, pushback. I'm not like a pushback, like I would think that, if we could have one, that would be amazing.
Thank you. I hope the Park District is listening to that answer. Anthony?
Yes, I have an observation which I would like to maybe discuss and bring a little bit light to it. So some of our kids which have attended Jewish day school, and us parents have paid the taxes for the public school. But the kids, because I was a PTA president for Long Island Hebrew Academy for 12 years, I realized that these kids are deprived of all the benefits that the public school kids receive. Let's say a large auditorium, playgrounds, gym activities, sports. We had to choose to take our kids to PAL because between Shabbat or taking the kids to a sports program. Library was closed on Sundays, so the kids didn't have any place to go to study because, on Shabbat there's an observance and kids do not go. So I don't know if these things have changed a little bit, but I was hoping that there would be more collaboration between the public schools and private schools for a little bit more benefits to given to the kids who go to Jewish day schools. I would hope to see that because I still see that Long Island Hebrew Academy is a small school. It was from grade 1, kindergarten to 5th grade, and then they added, but the kids had only to use the parking lot as their playground. I'm hoping that there would be more opportunities for collaboration, that they can use the facilities. I don't know how, but this is just something that comes to my mind.
Can I jump in for a second?
Sure.
Because I think that's a great point. I'll second that. I don't know if this is necessarily responsive to the question, but I mean the financial pressures are sometimes just immense, right? We've got taxes are relatively high. We've got and if you're sending your kids to private school also for religious reasons, there's just a lot. It's a very big burden on parents. It's very hard, and in fact it affects the whole community because you end up having grandparents who help out a lot, and you have other members of the community who help out people and then housing prices are going up, and all of those things happening together just sort of make it very difficult for families who are trying to send their kids to religious schools. Makes it very, very, the pressure is just immense. So if, to the extent that, we have some of our, public institutions and specifically the public schools, which have great programs and obviously we're not part of the public school, we don't enroll in the public school, but, kids can certainly possibly still be a part of after school programs or anything to make it like a little bit easier, I think would be, very, very much appreciated. That'd be a very, very big help. Thank you for raising that.
Of course.
Yeah.
Thank you. Rabbi Shorten?
So one of the questions here is sort of navigating the diversity within your culture and practice, and what does unity mean in Great Neck? I'm going to add sort of another piece if you wanted to do that is some of you actually grew up here and then moved back here. So I think all of you have children and or grandchildren that are kind of willing to have that as well. So if they said to you, your children or grandchildren, we want to move back to Great Neck, what would you respond to that?
Live next door. Live next door.
There's no other places.
Okay, so Stephanie, you have your head, so please speak up.
There is no other place than Great Neck. I'm expecting my children to come back here, buy a house next to me. If they could afford it, yes. Then here they are. Say hi. So yes, absolutely. No place like Great Neck.
Agreed.
I think my kids right now, before when they were in college, they were more like, we're not going to move back there, blah, 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 blah. But now as they're, out of college and out of the real world, my older son, he sees the benefits of growing up in a place like this because he's seen what else is out there now in, where he's living now. And so if he wants to move back, I would say go for it. But, there are challenges to being, it's still not a big Indian community, right? And so you have to really go out there and put yourself out there to know your neighbors and know the other people who are in your community. And if he's prepared to do that, then it's okay. You can make a really good life here. But you have to be prepared to reach out to other people, and you have to be prepared to learn from other people, and you have to be prepared to be challenged a little bit by other people.
Thank you. Regina looks like you're raising your hand.
Depends who they marry. You can wish, you can dream, you can hope. Depends who they marry. And that's bigger than the prices of the houses and all the rest of it. And I think that I'm the only grandmother of grown children at this table. Am I correct? No grandparents here? Okay, take your time. So I can only tell you that no matter what, it's not a reflection on Great Neck. My children, in fact, most recently, the child that I thought was the least interested and grateful for his upbringing in Great Neck, and all three of them are very successful and have happy lives, happy spouses, happy children. And in fact, one of them is graduating college. So we have the long view of this pond, and yet it depends on, their spouses. They have families too. So it depends on if your kids marry somebody, like the Persians have got the right idea. So if you keep them in a family business, keep them in Great Neck, great. Lucky you. But I honestly don't think it's as easy as that. I don't think it's let's put it this way. I don't think it's a reflection on anything wrong with Great Neck if children don't move back. How's that?
So I have something to say, something interesting to say to that. When my husband and I got married, we moved to Great Neck. We lived in a small apartment. And a couple of kids down the line, my husband decided to purchase the house that belonged to my sister-in-law, which was 3 houses down from my mother-in-law. And we moved to my sister-in-law. 28 years later, we decided to renovate the house of my mother-in-law to move to my mother-in-law and hopefully save this for our son who just got married recently. And Regina is so right. It depends really on who they marry. Our daughter-in-law is from California, really wishes to raise her kids in Great Neck. She feels that the education, the sense of family, what we have in Great Neck is nowhere to be found, and so right.
So we're going to ask one last questions before we open up the floor to the audience for some questions. So the last question is, and each panelist, please share this. What is one piece of wisdom or insight from your experience or heritage that you find particularly valuable or that you would want to share with others in Great Neck? Let's start with Adam.
I left this one blank on my page. And I don't really like to share. I don't have so much wisdom to share. I mean, other than just, I think just, not being, open to others and, of course, considerate of others and the golden rule of treating others the way you want to be treated. But I think those are pretty easy, I guess. So I'm gonna pass the buck on that.
All right, thank you. Nazaleen?
Yes, I actually would like to share a wisdom from Torah, which has taught us love your neighbor as yourself. And I think it's very relevant for us living in Great Neck as a community, the way we can respect ourselves and appreciate our own values, not to boast, but to really invite, appreciate each other's values and have the sense of togetherness. I think that's very important. If we can respect ourselves and our own values, we can do the same for our neighbors.
Thank you. And we'll move down the line. Steve?
Yeah. I'll just echo that as well. Coming from the 3 major religions, it's really the same. Having been a Catholic and now a Muslim, it really is the same thing. It's love thy neighbor. It really is. And being in this community, I see that, as I mentioned, every day when I'm walking down the streets. You can feel the community here, and it's something that is very welcoming. So that's the wisdom I would share. It's not so much wisdom as it is, again, an observation.
Thank you. And Aleka?
I actually have something from Hinduism. So there's the concept of dharma, and dharma means that we do acts because they're the right thing to do, not because what the reward is at the end of it. So we do right, we do good, because that is what is proper and what we should be doing, and we shouldn't concentrate on the benefit that we might get from doing it. And the second thing is, if we follow the Dharma, then we build the karma, which is basically, your good acts will result in good for you. Later on, it will be returned. So I think that's a little Hindu Buddhism wisdom.
Thank you. Ancient wisdom. Regina?
I was thinking about that, because when you say my culture is made up of so many threads. My religion is certainly one of them. My parents suffered for it during World War II, and I find that we're suffering for it again, which is kind of terrifying. We're very insulated here, and we don't feel maybe what other people are feeling as close as Manhattan. So I try to plow through issues that frighten me or that are not easily frightened. Issues that might frighten me by just reaching out. And that was one of the things I was taught, is that don't stew over something. Talk to somebody, even if it's somebody that you think doesn't like you. And there are plenty of people who don't like me. I mean, I know you think everybody loves me. The other thing is that in addition to worshiping at my own temple, I worship at the Temple of Culture. I really do. And I learn a great deal from reading and from the work of other artists or painters or musicians. I'm uplifted by philosophers and thinkers, and comedians are my last resource. So I really do love laughter. So I think that if we can all laugh together, if we can all join together, and I'm moved to tell you that after October 7th, 2023, isn't that? Mm-hmm. One of the things that we were forced to do, because it was so horrifying, especially in light of the community, we reached out to every single branch of the community, and everybody came to Temple Bethel, where we asked the rabbi and were granted the ability to have a massive community solidarity event, and people came as though they were coming to a funeral and left, because we had music and we had film and we had some amazing speakers, but people came and heard testimony from two survivors of two different massacres. The one that happened on October 7th in 23, and the one that happened in Munich in 72. And they were bookended on stage, and the visual was amazing. We had almost 1,000 people. The Chinese Association participated, just so you know, people from the Chinese community, from every branch of the Jewish community. I was told, oh, Orthodox won't walk into a Reform temple. I said, watch me. So we were very moved that people from the Muslim community and people from beyond Great Neck, way beyond Great Neck, public officials, Bruce Blakeman spoke. The school district was one of the supporters and boosters for that event. It was so, I don't even know how to explain it to you. It was so, just the sheer numbers of people from the community who turned out. I felt like in the scene in It's a Wonderful Life at the end, when everybody comes in and puts $1 in Jimmy Stewart's hat. It just felt like, didn't matter what you were or where you're from, we were one group, we were one community, we were one people. So I'm pretty optimistic, I'm pretty bullish on Great Neck, and that's how I'm going to leave it.
Thank you. Stephanie?
I agree with Steve. Echoes for everybody's sentiment, the golden rules. I would like to call Confucius. Do not do to others what you do not want them to do to you. So, yes. So, we pretty much the same. Unity. Okay? Treat each other with respect and courtesy.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So that's our panelists tonight, and through this event, we hope the audience and the community will find that we come from different walks of life, different experiences, but we have a lot more in common than those that divide us.